Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
Hello and welcome to the Popternative podcast, the podcast and talk show where we have digital discussions, the worlds of TV, film, music, sports, pop culture, lifestyle, everything really, depending on the guest. We talk about it all. As always, I'm your host, Peter Remoliotis. Social media, you know me as PD Beats. My guest is a guitarist of a band called We Were Sharks, who just released a new music video and song called Shameless. We're with Colin, Jacques. Colin, welcome to Popternative, man.
Hey, buddy. Thanks for having me.
No problem. It's always an exciting time because, you know, bands release songs all the time and, you know, you can go listen to it and stream it. But it's always cool when the song and the music video come out at the same time, too. It's an exciting time. Fans get kind of more.
Yeah, for sure. It's always like it's always like an internal struggle, I guess, to decide when you want to release stuff, right? So like I think we had discussed this for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, and it's about like, hey, maybe we pull out the song early, maybe we don't, maybe it's always and it's kind of like go with your gut and see what other people are doing, kind of thing. And this time we went with our gut, and we're like, oh, the song comes out at whatever midnight the night before. That's just how it works now with DSPs, right? So we're like, there should be enough leeway for like the stuff to start trickling in and stuff. And yeah, we'll put out the video at like noon or something. You know what I mean? So that's just kind of how it worked out.
The one thing I kind of wanted, the reason why I was interested in having a conversation with you is for a lot of people that kind of known you, you live in the Ottawa area now, you're originally from kind of the Toronto area, but you've been involved with touring and bands for most of your life. You know, you were doing a lot of the kind of behind the scenes stuff as well. You're doing lights for some bands as well. So you've kind of, you've been involved with the in and outs of a lot of like facets of the music industry, Colin. You know what I mean? What are some things that you're kind of like that you've learned the most about the grind of working in the music industry?
Oh, that's a high level question. I guess just, educate yourself to the best you can be at some point. Sorry. Yawn at its dock. At some point you reach the peak of like what you know, and then you have to start looking at what whoever you're working with and making sure that they're working at your standard of work.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really important to make sure that everyone's on the same page. And if you believe that you're educated to the point where you think you're not necessarily right, but you have a way of you want to work around things, and you just make sure everyone's up there with you, and everything goes way smoother. If the communication is completely open,
Yep.
Whether it's negative, positive, constructive, non-constructive, as long as everybody's on the same page,
Mm-hmm.
everything goes a lot smoother. So like you don't get into fights over little things with management, labels, booking, whatever. As if you're all on the same page, no one's head is in the clouds, then it makes things a lot easier.
Absolutely. So We Were Sharks have had lineup changes in the past, but you've been in the band for a decent amount of times to date, right?
I want to say 5 years.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know.
But it's been more than like 1 or 2 years. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, been a bit of it.
Is that kind of also just kind of a test? Because a lot of bands, have like lineup changes, but people like I don't think people kind of understand, the grind and the struggle of trying to make it in the business, but also like it is difficult, you know what I mean, to be like financial, like to make money full time financially as a musician, like that firsthand, you know what I mean? Are lineup changes kind of the testament of just kind of like, people trying to kind of get along with their lives and getting kind of like stability with kind of their life type thing? I mean, that happens a lot more. Like a lot of people think like, oh, band changes, it's like beef, but it's just like people grow naturally over time, Colin.
Yeah, like I'd say like more than not, it's always lifestyle changes rather than issues within. I mean, sometimes of course it's issues within, and that does happen.
Is that a misconception, do you think, though, that people think
I agree.
there's always beef?
I totally agree that most of the time it's not beef, it's just people growing. It's like people start playing in bands like when bands start getting bigger or serious, it's usually, sometime between like you're 18 to 25. And by the time you're 25, you might compare, in my head, if you're under 25, you are a child and you haven't quite figured out your life yet. You know what I mean? And like, I'm pushing 30 and I'm stable,
Mhm.
but like, you know what I mean? Like I still have massive student loan debt and things like that. And sometimes people can make it work and they can find jobs that allow them to do what they want to do with the time off or let them work from the road or what have you. But I'd say, yeah, I agree. Like most of the time, it's about growing as a person and deciding if it's really what you want to do and if you really want to take on the challenge of trying to make it work. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And it's been the same thing for us. Like I think probably almost every single member change for Sharks has always been like, yeah, I'm gonna go change my life up, or I'm
Yeah.
gonna go for this job, or I'm gonna have a child, or you know what I mean? Like,
Because
or like,
you know exactly how it is, and I see like people that used to be in We Were Sharks. I still see on Instagram people keeping in touch with like current members and past members are still like friends. You know what I mean? And I think
mm,
that's one of those things where you remember the alternative press days and everything. Oh my God, this guy left the band. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Oh my
exactly,
God,
yeah,
they kicked him
yeah.
out. You know what I
It's
mean?
not so dramatic. It's usually just like people growing up. You know what I mean? Like you make a lot of dumb choices in the first like 5 years of your 20s, right? And people start to figure it out as they go
Yeah,
along. Some of the guys are older and we've kind of figured it out. Like Matt,
yeah.
Matt joined just before we were writing this new record, and I think he's a couple years younger than I am. He's the youngest one by far. I think he's 10 years younger than Randy.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean?
Way to
But
just
like,
call out Randy like that.
oh,
Yeah,
whatever.
Randy,
Like,
more on the podcast. Yeah, you're getting old, bud.
well, he's a grown ass man. It's fine. You can take it. But like that's it. Like it's you figure out as you go along if you can make it work. And usually if you can't make it work, it's like, hey man, there's no stress. Like move on with your life. It's not going to be a big deal.
I think people don't realize. I'm sure it's come up in other interviews as well. How long like We Were Sharks have been a band for? Like Randy and Terrence, who was in Obey the Brave, and Will. I mean, they started this band like. Because I remember, like, when I moved to Ottawa, which was like a decade ago, I did like a couple of shows with them when they were Sharks before changing to We Were Sharks. And that was like 10, 11 years ago. Like, I was like 18, 19, like booking shows with them. So they've been doing it for a long time. Do you think people don't, like, I don't think people realize how long, like, Randy and Will specifically have been doing the We Were Sharks stuff for.
Yeah, it's a testament, you know what I mean? Like it's really weird. Like when I moved to this city, 2010.
Yeah.
I moved to Ottawa in
For school, right?
2010 for school. Yeah,
Carlton, right?
you're going to
I
Carleton.
think we had a class
Um,
together. We had to or something.
maybe
Yeah.
I barely remember my 4 years there, but like I moved to the city and like I wanted to do so many things because I'd never lived in the city before. I'd been in Toronto a lot,
Yeah.
but I lived outside of Toronto in the sticks. And I was playing in a couple of bands. I'd be like, I'm like, oh, Oshawa is like a big city. You know what I mean? Like, but, doing stuff, and I was touring a little bit, but it's just like I never lived in the city. So when I got here, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna look up some bands, and probably the first band I found that I liked was Sharks, and I feel like I was Sharks' biggest fan. And the funny thing is, like like on Facebook, like it pops up in your memories. It's like, oh, on this day, I think there's like a day in the fall it gets reposted in our chat with our management all the time. It's just like me being like something like I heart Sharks or check out Sharks this, because when they put out that first EP, I was like losing my mind. Like I had it on like a burnt CD in my car, like 10 goddamn years ago. And Randy and Will are still just like trudging it out.
Well, it's funny because so a couple years ago, so when the Victory record came out, were you in the band? I'm pretty sure you were in the
Yep.
band, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So I interviewed Randy about that, right? And I was saying like, hey man, those were the days, with those were the days, Cafe de Cuff, Mavericks, and everything, right? And he was just like,
yeah.
hell yeah. He's like, those are still the days. Like he's like, I'm still doing that now.
Dude, like probably a year before I joined this band, I went to go see We Were Sharks play with Beartooth
Mhm.
at
Club Saw. I was at
Club
that show.
Saw,
Yeah.
and he said hi to me because I know him. Like I booked Shark shows like years before, and I knew them. And he's like, "Hey man, what are you doing in this city?" I'm like, "It's probably like 2013, 2014." I'm like, "I live here. I've lived here for years." He's like, "I had no idea, man," because he knew me from the Heights, so he just thought I was from Toronto. But like
Oh
I've
man,
been
the Heights. There must be something in the water. We
like
still love that song.
when I was playing in that band, I was living in Ottawa and going to school,
Yes.
and I was driving to Toronto every single week. I would leave on Friday night or Thursday night, and I'd come back
Yeah.
on Sunday. Every single week, we'd be either writing, recording, or playing
I think
shows
I
or
booked
whatever.
you guys. I think I booked the Heights once. I think
Maybe.
possibly, yeah.
It's another like dark spot in my memory where I'm like, yeah, that was a period of time
That
that
was a
happened,
fun
but I don't
track
really
though,
know.
man. That was a fun track. The Heights. You guys had some cool songs. I like that band.
Definitely a little bit before its time, I think. It probably would have sold a little bit better now.
Yeah.
Like that's all right.
I feel like
It was
people
it was a lot
try
of fun.
things and it just kind of just like, yeah, like we did this thing. Like it was like you and Nick in that band, right?
Yeah, and me,
Yeah.
Nick, and Gavin.
Yeah, you do this thing and you're like, okay, we'll put it out there. And it's just kind of like, oh, like it's unfortunately not taken off like we thought.
The difference in like, oh my god, if I knew then what I know now and how to like actually do things, release things. Hold on a sec, my fucking, oh my god, it's getting bright in here. There you go. Like actually like release things and properly market, produce, put everything out in a way like a package. We're like, oh yeah, what's an EPK? We'll make a PDF with all of our stuff in it for people. Like cold call emailing, like we were fucking idiots. It was like, you know, but like you don't know that, you know what I mean? And like my like brain and like melding and stuff came in like probably 2000. It's only been like 4 years since I've been able to figure all this shit out.
Yeah.
And it took that long, you know, to get where I am now, to have a full understanding that I can yell at a label now without being afraid. So, you know what I mean?
That's a
Like,
good point. I like that.
well, it's just like it's what I was talking about before, right? It's like you learn and you educate yourself until you're at a certain level. And then you're like, I'm at this level. This is where all the adults are playing. Now I'm playing with the big boys, like people who are paid to do music. And you're like, I'm going to yell at somebody because I can. You know what I mean? Like, well, like that's just it. Like in 2012, I was like, we're going to put out songs. And there's no way no one's going to like it.
Do you think it's interesting, and this is kind of like a more of a deep philosophical question, and I want your opinion on this. I don't know if you can relate. So I'm from Montreal originally. Like you, I'm someone who lives in Ottawa right now, who's not
Right.
originally from Ottawa, right? So I moved here about 10 years ago, and I'm from Montreal. And I'm from like, you know, a bigger city and everything, and it was a lot different when I moved here to Ottawa, right?
Right.
Like the people are more different. You know, it's a government town. It's different. You know what I mean? And a lot of people use the stigma of, you know, it's boring. There's not much to do in Ottawa. But what I did notice is there was a lot of amazing bands from the Ottawa area, like Rydell, Bearings, even like the heavy stuff, you know, of Reverie. Like there was like a lot of really good bands. Is that kind of just like the fact that, you know, there's like people maybe basically just like focused on playing in bands and made music because there wasn't like, because like what is that basically a testament to Ottawa as, you know, a smaller, you know, quieter city that people just kind of get together and make more music? Like, did you notice that when you moved here that there was a good scene of music?
I think, yeah, I think the scene was really great. Definitely better than it is now, but I mean it's a pandemic, so everything's really quiet.
Yeah.
But you know, like there's a lot of like, for the size of the city, like, you know, like there's a million people now or whatever,
Yeah.
something like that officially. But the size of the city, the amount of, you know, performance spaces and venues and studios, and it's crazy. Like there's a lot of stuff, a lot of resources for music and bands. Like there's even communities that are like that I don't really pay attention to. Like the country community is really big here. The hip hop community is like, you know, pretty underground, but like there's a lot of people who are really into local people here. Like it's really interesting. Like when I moved here, there's like, yeah, it was the same thing. It's like all those bands you just said, like they're all around there doing stuff. There was like a bunch of names that I always see pop up in like memories or something that I'm like, I recognize that band. I don't know if I ever saw them, but they had like a funny name, like Channel 5 News Team.
Channel 4 News Tube, yep.
Or Channel 4. And there was like, I think Terry's old band, which is like a Southern hardcore band or something. Like I always see those names pop
The
up.
Courtship.
Yeah, it's Courtship. I always see those names
Take Her
pop up.
Easy,
And like,
such a great song. I still listen on the Reverb Nation. It's still on there. So
but that's the thing is like, I moved in like 2010. So my, like for local stuff, my mindset's still very like GTA. So like To Cherish and like Sawmill Valley and like Shortline Hero, like
oh, what Aaron's old band? Speak to the Devil.
Yeah, speak to the devil.
There were some good
Yeah,
bands from
dude.
that area, man.
Like the first like Abandon All Ships record or whatever, like
Oh
their
yeah,
EP where they said their own name and we all lost our fucking minds.
Kingdoms. Remember
Yeah,
Kingdoms?
Kingdoms. Yeah, dude, of course. Like there's a lot of those bands that's just like nobody cared for, or no, it didn't get further than like a 2 hour drive.
The only
You
band
know
that
what I mean?
started to break that a little bit was, I find you're gonna agree with me, is Dead and Divine.
Oh yeah, of course.
Did you know what I
Yeah,
mean by that? They were kind of part of
yeah,
that bubble, but I feel like they kind of like were starting to get the recognition they deserved. I found like they were touring a
totally.
little
Yeah,
bit outside. Yeah,
they're going outside and getting the support tours that they needed, and then it just kind of all fell apart. But there
yeah,
was a time where bands would do 2 week tours of Southern Ontario. Like you could do St. Catharines, then Hamilton, then Kitchener, then Toronto, then Newmarket, then whatever. You know what I mean? Like the 2004 to 2008 or something. There was like a period of time where it's just like put a show here, 100 kids will show up. It's no stress.
yeah.
Like that's just what happened. And like when I moved to Ottawa, it was like the tail end of that. So like I think I saw Sharks play some pretty funny shows,
Yeah.
like to a hilarious amount of people at like Legions and stuff.
Yeah. I did a show. My first Ottawa show when I moved here was a Cafe de Cuff show with Sharks, Chasing Amy, and it was the record set. That was like the lineup, and it was a Super Bowl Sunday, and we packed the Cuff like
100,
I mean the Cuff
120 people or something.
don't get me wrong, like the Cuff's not like the biggest venue, right? But
No,
like
but it's Super Bowl Sunday.
there was still like
It's
120
like,
people over a Super Bowl Sunday Shark show.
yeah, exactly.
It was
Hilarious.
wild.
That's what it used to be.
Yeah. No, it's fun, man. I just feel like I've known I don't know Jason that well. I will get to know Jason because he's going to be in my podcast, and I'm very excited about that. But I know that he was in Over the Top, and Jason Mooney has been in We Were Sharks for quite a bit too. I don't think people realize that. Do you think people don't
Yeah.
realize how long he's actually been in the band for?
Yeah, I want to say 2013,
Yeah,
maybe.
exactly. But
Probably
I've
about
known
7
you
years.
and I've known Matt Sears for quite some time. And the one thing I've known about you two is you guys are big supporters of the scene. Like you see it on Facebook and everything. How important is it that kind of support kind of stays on? Even now, going now more closer times when We Were Sharks now with the stuff you're putting out now. Like one can make an argument the band is more kind of established and known, like compared to what it was a couple of years ago, right? Like you're doing some good stuff right now. The support was always there from guys like yourself and Sears. Could you talk a little bit about that? How important that was to you, the kind of when you can support the scene and support everything?
Yeah, totally. Like I wouldn't, blow smoke up my own ass, but like we have a bigger platform. So it's like any chance we have to do something for those around us it's no big deal, like put it up. Like it's expanded to that point now too, where like we have people we've met on the road or people we've toured with or whatever, and they'll, they may be in a smaller band or something like that, and they'll put out something new, and I'll be the first one if it pops up. I'll repost it on all of our shit if I can. Like
Yeah.
like unless my manager's screaming at me to do something else for the day,
So
you know
that's
what I mean?
you,
Like,
right? Because I've definitely seen that. I've definitely seen like, check out the new Cold Front record. Let's go.
yeah, exactly. Like usually it's me or sometimes it's Jay. Like there's no reason not to, like if you can, like there's a cool band like in Western Canada called like Bellevue, and they're like we didn't even tour with them. We toured the band that they were playing with and like met up with them. Super nice dudes. We're like, I'll do anything to help out a buddy, you know what I mean? Like there's a band in Chicago called Action Adventure who went kind of viral a couple of weeks ago on
Yeah.
TikTok. And they've been around for like 5 years, and like they're fucking awesome. And we never even toured with them. We just toured with their guitar player in another band. And I'm like, yeah, I'll fucking post it. Like, why not? Like, hell yeah. Like anything that we can do to help those around us, there's no reason not to, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like I'm going to let my socials go quiet for the day because I'm like, oh, I'm too good to spread someone else's, message.
But
Like,
it's
it's
pretty cool.
silly.
It's pretty cool because I talked to Randy about this, and Randy's always like, "Yeah, like I don't really pay attention to that stuff. Like it's cool, but like you." So I'm on We Were Sharks Spotify page right now, right? And I'm reading 70,000 monthly listeners. Like that's cool to think, right? That number is there. Like that's a lot of people on a monthly basis that are listening to at least one We Were Sharks song, dude. Like that's amazing. Congrats.
Yeah, thanks, man. It's really weird. Like I
Bridge
was like,
Burner's got 3 million streams.
I was like, so that's the thing is like, I came into the band after they had released that record with Bridge Burner on it, and it
Yeah.
was a sleeper, like a total sleeper. And then I think it took like I remember bugging Jason Mooney to be like, hey man, when's it coming out? Because it wasn't coming out for years. I was like, I'd see him every once in a while, I'd be like, when's it coming out? Let me see it. He's like, oh, we got videos and this and that. We're waiting, we're sitting on it, blah blah. I'm like, let me see it. And like I joined the band probably a year after that record came out. So probably like, I don't know, 2016 early or whatever. So like, and it wasn't a big tune then. The EP was doing cool, like it was doing its thing, and then Bridge Burner just started like going up, up, and it just kept fucking going up. I remember making a post like because I was doing all the social stuff at the time. I remember making a post for like, oh cool, it hit 500,000 plays or something. It looked sweet, like that's crazy. And there's like a month later, it was like it hit 1 million.
Yeah.
It hit a
No,
million
but the thing
five.
is,
It just kept going.
I don't know if you saw, but like I had Tyler Posey from Teen Wolf on my show. I was telling Randy about this. We talked about because he's in pop punk bands too, and he has a big following. And we talked about We Were Sharks like on the show,
Oh yeah.
and because he likes We Were Sharks, and like before I started, I'm like, yeah, like I used to book shows, and my friends We Were Sharks. And he was like, dude, I love We Were Sharks. Keep burning down bridges. He started like singing it.
It's a wild song, man. It took off really well, but like it was a total sleeper for like a full year and a half. And then I think I'll give Spotify the go on that one because they probably put it on a playlist and then it just shot.
You know
And
what
it's still
though?
doing really
Like
well.
honestly, like I've told Randy this. And you know, to each their own, right? And some people would agree with me, or some like, but like I honestly think my favorite, like sober is that's like a great song. That is like one of like that it's catchy. It's got good lyrics. Like it's just that I think is like the sleeper We Were Shark song. Like it's got the love, but like I feel like that is the one I'm hoping that people talk about a lot. You know
There's a couple, you know what I mean? Like, and you think about like bands who've been around for a while, and like people like dig through their records and like some of like the non-single songs, like 'cause that's just what it is. People focus on singles, right? Like band puts out like 4 singles a record.
Yeah.
That's what 40% of the record most of the time. And those are the songs that focus on. They get all the plays, blah blah blah, blah. And that's what people really focus on. But like you have those songs in the middle that are like the middle ground where you're like, this is awesome, and I can't believe this wasn't a single. But then you'll like, I have that with a million records where like, I can't believe this song is this strong, and they
because Sober
decided
wasn't a
not
single,
to.
right?
No, it was not.
But do you know what I mean though? They
I
got
know,
some
I agree.
love. Yeah.
I 100% agree. Yeah, it started to. It's another slow burn, right? Like it started to pick up a little bit. Like I saw it on our like data sheet or whatever, and it started to pick up a little bit, which is sweet. Like it's a really cool song. And like there's even like the last song on that record, Always You.
Yeah.
That's another one that's like it's funny because if you listen to that song and you listen to some of our newer songs, you kind of see where it's headed.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean, on some of the stuff that we've been working on.
But it's
So
just
like,
cool. Like there's 5 songs like that have like at least 1 million streams. Like I think people don't realize like that's the thing too. If a YouTube video hits 50,000 views, right? Like that's a lot of views. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
like like for someone who's been in the grind and everything, can you tell my views that that's a big deal? You know what I mean? Everyone wants the million. Everyone wants, but like 50,000 is a lot.
Yeah, I think we get kind of bogged down in like the virality, I'll say, of like videos and songs, and you look at things, you're like, oh, how many views does this crazy big song have? And you're like, oh, it's got like 1 billion or something. Like I saw a TikTok the other day that had 1 billion views, and I'm like, like that's insane. But like on the other side, it's just like I've been doing this for a while, and man, I think Shameless came out, so it came out on Friday.
Yep.
It got 10,000 listens in one day.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Which is crazy. Like, doesn't matter how many people listen to it. Maybe one guy's just ripping it, but like it doesn't matter. Like that's wild. And like to some people, 10,000 doesn't feel like a lot, but it's like that's insane. Like that's crazy. And it's super cool. Like, but it's all in context, right? So it's like if you're looking at like viral stuff, you're like, that's just on its own. I wouldn't even put that in the same category as actual content as far as like people busting it, you know what I mean? But like 10,000 is crazy. 50,000 views on a YouTube video, that's nuts. You know what I mean? Like subscriber counts, 100 people subscribing to something is still insane to me. Like that's cool as hell.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It is crazy for sure. And it's just you guys keep doing it. I'm proud of you guys, man. I firsthand have seen the grind and the hustle and the everyday. And like I don't feel like a lot of people realize like how much is put into a We Were Sharks record or a We Were Sharks tour. You know what I mean? Like I don't think people
totally
realize it sometimes, you know? So it's pretty crazy. But man, this was great. Thank you so much for coming on the show, man. I really appreciate it.
Dude, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so Shameless, the new single, new music video is out right now. So people
Yeah,
can check that out.
yeah, you can grab it on YouTube or wherever. Like all of the songs on all the on the digital platforms. Go find it. Get me my nickels. You know, I need those nickels. I get like 20% of a nickel or something.
And where can people follow you on social media to keep up to date with everything?
You could just search We Were Sharks, and then Instagram We Were Sharks Band.
Awesome. What about you? You're like I Am Sad Dad, aren't you?
Yeah, I think it's I Am Sad Dad. So I don't really use my socials. I'm one of those dummies who works too much on, I guess, the band. So
Yeah,
I have my own.
You used to be part of that like.
I
crew.
turned into a lurker. Now I don't post anything, but I'm always watching.
Absolutely. Seriously, man, thank you so much. It was great to catch up.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
Well, this has been Popternative. YouTube.com/Popternative for previous episodes. You can check out the new We Were Sharks single, Shameless, which is out now. Until next time, this is Colin, Jacques of We Were Sharks, and PD Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.